Good morning, everyone. My name is Brajender Singh, and I'll be taking a small session with you on the basics of essay writing. Now, I know that the mains are about to come up. The result for the prelims is expected within the next 1 week, and I know that a lot of students are not sure regarding what they're supposed to do for the essay paper. This is the time when most students are focusing on their optional, they're revising their optional, they have GS coming up, they have different test series to attend, and the time available for the essay paper is very limited. Now, how exactly you deal with this paper, how exactly you maximize your score, how you prepare in the next few days, a brief introduction to that let me give you here. In this session over here, three things, simple things we'll focus on. Number one, an understanding of the basics of the essay paper conducted by the UPSC. Number two, we'll take a look at three basic elements in any essay writing exercise. First, how you choose the topic correctly. Number two, how you, more importantly, interpret the topic correctly. And third, when you're writing, what the structure of your essay is supposed to look like. And third, then, one part of this structure we'll take a look at by considering how you write the introduction and how you write your conclusion. To understand this, first let me take a look at the essay paper itself. If I look at the directions given by the UPSC, they fall into two categories. Number one, the UPSC essay paper has two sections, Section A and Section B. Both sections contain 4 essay topics, and you are expected to choose one topic from each of the sections. The length expected from a student is also given by the UPSC. Length ideally should be between 1000 to 1200 words. More importantly, the UPSC in its directions, in the notification, says 3 things about the essay paper. It says that in writing the essay, candidates are expected to keep closely to the subject of the essay. Number 2, they are expected to arrange their ideas in an orderly manner, in an orderly fashion. And number 3, that you will be given marks, you will be given credit for effective and exact expression. These 3 elements given over here, if a student wants to address them, they will take the form of different criteria that are used in evaluating you. Now, for a moment, step out of the perspective of a student and look at the same paper from the perspective of an examiner. When an examiner looks at your essay, on what basis will they give you marks? They will give you marks on the basis of criteria, and those criteria correspond to these 3 elements that the UPSC had mentioned. For example, first and most importantly, the UPSC says that you should keep to the subject. What does this mean? This means that when you're writing the essay, you must focus on the topic. And to focus on the topic, what needs to be done? Number 1, as far as possible, do not digress from the topic. What do you mean by do not digress from the topic? That when you're writing the essay, understand the different parts, understand the different terms given in the essay, and do justice to all of them. Do justice to any correlation between them. To take a small example, let's say we have a small topic which says wealth is of no use without health. Simple topic, wealth is of no use without health. Now, in these circumstances, if I ask this to a class full of students, every single student will tell me that if you don't have good health, you cannot enjoy the wealth that you have. That is absolutely correct. But very few students are also able to tell, and this is where the difference comes between average and good marks. Very few students are also able to identify that without good health, you cannot even promote the generation or the creation of wealth. Unless and until, what do you mean by health over here? Good human capital, good social capital. And unless you have good human capital, your country's ability, your system's ability to generate more wealth, to generate more growth is also significantly reduced. But that's one part. The second part, and that's why we say don't digress, address all the elements simultaneously. Second part, and this very few students do, is to understand that wealth is equally important in promoting health. If I want a healthcare system that can cater to the needs of different people, different sections in my society, I must have economic prosperity. I must have wealth. Why? Because it is only through wealth that I can provide you a better standard of living. I can fulfill your basic nutritional requirements. It is only through wealth that I can give you clean air. clean water, good living conditions, free healthcare, better social security, and so on. This is what we mean when we say focus on the topic. Do not digress, address all the elements as comprehensively as you can. And of course, when you're writing, as far as possible, repeatedly reinforce your perspective on the topic. How you reinforce your perspective, I will look at that when we discuss the introduction later. Number 2, the UPSC says that you should write your essay in an orderly manner, in an orderly fashion. What does that mean? That means that your essay must have a sensible flow. In your essay, you must be able to develop linkages between different terms, between different areas. For this, what do you need to do? Number 1, you should have a logical structure. And for that logical structure, it is absolutely essential, and I'm repeating this, absolutely essential to put in a little bit of pre-planning. In the pre-planning, what are you doing? In the pre-planning, before you start writing, you create the skeletal structure of your essay. What the skeletal structure is, what are the ingredients, what are the components of the structure, this again we'll take a look at in a little while. So number 1, when you're writing, focus on the topic. Number 2, when you're writing, write in an orderly manner, maintain a logical flow. Third and most importantly, the UPSC says that you will be given marks, you will be given credit for effective and exact expression. This element has 5 different factors that are included. And these are the kind of factors on the basis of which the evaluator is going to give you marks. For example, they will check, do you have clarity in your content? What do you mean by clarity in content? That whatever is the content that you're writing, it should be relevant to the topic. It should not be irrelevant. For example, if I say that wealth is of no use without health, repeatedly in your topic, you should not keep writing about Ayushman Bharat. It's a relevant point, but you cannot keep repeating it over and over again. If I say health is of no use without wealth is of no use without health, similarly, a lot of students in the current scenario will talk about COVID, but that is just one problem. It may be a global pandemic, but that is just one perspective. Similarly, number 2, now if I have clarity in my content, I also need depth. What do you mean by depth in your content? That in your essay, you must be able to provide valid arguments. Whether you agree with the topic or you disagree with the topic, you must have a valid argument as to why you agree or why you choose to disagree. But when you're giving an argument, nobody cares about your point of view, nobody cares about your opinion unless you can support that argument, you can support that opinion with data, with statistics, with examples, with anecdotes, and so on. What do these do? They add depth in your content, and when you have depth in your content, now your presentation becomes more effective, becomes more convincing, becomes more persuasive. Number 3, and a good essay must have diversity in content. This is what I was mentioning here also when we said relevant. I said you cannot repeat the same point over and over again. There are students who will use the same perspective repeatedly. Do not do that. Choose different perspectives, choose different viewpoints. How you develop different perspectives, again, an example I'll give you later. Fourth, as far as possible to make your essay relevant, to make your essay effective, it must have prescriptive value. What do you mean by prescriptive value? Prescriptive value means that your essay, there will be some problems that you'll face, there will be some challenges that you'll discuss. For these problems, for these challenges, you must be able to give suggestions. You must be able to give solutions. You must be able to give advice. If required, even a warning. In essence, what is prescriptive value? That through your essay, you guide us in the right direction. In the last 3 or 4 years, one form of essays that have become very common are philosophical or reflective essays. In reflective essays, this prescriptive value becomes even more important. The more optimistic you are, the more you can give us a way out of the darkness, the more you can explain to us a solution for a challenge, the better and the more acceptable your answer becomes. And fifth, for effective expression, and this is one area which is usually an obstacle for many students, is the quality of your language, the quality of your grammar. Simple question that students have over here is it important to be grammatically correct? Is it important to write big words? Should I write fancy words? Will I get more marks if the words that I'm using are difficult? Answer is no. All that you have to do is use simple language and easy words. In fact, the simpler your language, the easier it is to understand, the more effective it becomes. But here I'll add one factor. If you are grammatically correct, it is certainly an advantage. This I cannot lie about. If you are grammatically correct, it is certainly an advantage. However, if you are grammatically weak, that is not necessarily a disadvantage. As long as when you're writing, see, many students have a mental block. They say that, sir, we've not really used English when we were in school or maybe not even in college. All of a sudden, I'm being asked to write an entire essay, but I'm not very comfortable with English. What should I do? You don't worry about that. You focus on the content. When you develop the right content, when you practice on developing more content, in the process, it is absolutely natural that your language will also improve. You'll come across newer words, you'll come across newer expressions. And when you revise your notes, when you revise that content, your language improves side by side. If you're grammatically correct, it is definitely an advantage. Minor grammatical errors, the UPSC will not penalize for. It will not punish you for that. So, 3 basic elements that the UPSC seeks, and these are some criteria that you should keep in mind when you're preparing for the essay paper. These things are the factors that are going to fetch you marks. Keeping this in mind, if I look at the essay paper, what should the perspective of a student be? If I am a person who's writing the mains this year and the mains are expected to start in January, I have a little more than 2 months to prepare. In these 2 months, what should I keep in mind for the essay paper? First and most importantly, this is a full 250 marks paper. It is a very scoring paper. It is a paper in which or for which many students usually don't prepare. 250 marks, if I take a look at GS paper 1, 2, 3 and 4, the amount of reading that you have to do is vast. You have to read a lot, you have to retain a lot. In the essay paper, on the other hand, there's a very limited amount that you'll have to prepare. Therefore, the cost-benefit analysis for this paper is in your favor. A little bit of effort if you put in, a little bit of energy, time if you invest, the returns can be significantly high. How high? 150, 160 are comfortably possible in the essay paper. Therefore, this paper, do not treat it lightly. Trust me, it can be a game changer for many candidates. Getting good marks can really propel you in the final list. Getting poor marks may compel you to sit for the exam again. Number 2, the essay paper is a generalist exercise, not a specialist exercise. This remember categorically. Students usually choose a topic from the background to which they belong. If I talk about, for example, social injustice somewhere, a sociology student will be more inclined to choosing that topic. That is absolutely right. But when you're writing the paper, you don't get marks for specialist terms, you don't get marks for jargon, you don't get marks for technicalities, you get marks for a generalist orientation. The more general your essay is, the more applicable to the real world your essay is, the better we consider that essay. Number 3, time management is absolutely critical for this paper. And for time management, what do you need? In one word, you will have to practice. I have met students who have a lot of information. They say that they've made very good, very exhaustive notes for the essay paper, but they say that somehow their marks are always below average. But if you ask them, did you do justice to both the topics? Most of them say no. They say the first essay I wrote very well. The second essay I was running out of time. So the second half of the second essay I wrote very quickly. What have you done? You committed a major blunder. See, in the essay paper, you are given 180 minutes. You have to write 2 essays. For each of them, you have 90 minutes. If you spend even 15 minutes, and that's a lot of time, if you spend even 15 minutes per essay in brainstorming, in creating a skeletal structure, in developing the outline, in pre-planning, Even then, per essay, you have 75 minutes left. And in 75 minutes, all that you have to write is about 1000 to 1200 words, which is comfortably possible. This works out to roughly about 16 words that you're writing in a minute. In your GS papers, on the other hand, you write 24, 25 words per minute. You can go more slowly, you can go more carefully, you can focus on your handwriting, all of that. So, but this you will learn, this time management you can learn only if you practice. Number 4, essay topics can be very diverse. In the last few years, reflective essays are becoming more common. But even if reflective essays are becoming common, that is a broad theme. Under reflective essays, what they will ask me, I'm not really sure. They could say that joy is the simplest form of gratitude. They could say simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. They could say that ships sink not because of the water around them, but because of the water that gets into them. There could be n number of topics. Therefore, before you sit for the exam, some ready-made content is absolutely necessary in the form of arguments, in the form of data, in the form of examples, in the form of quotations and so on. Number 4 or number 5, when you're preparing for the essay paper, one small piece of advice for self-regulation, self-correction, if you have a doubt about some weak area, whoever you are, wherever you're sitting, if you have a doubt about some weak area, trust me, it matters. Students attend classes for a month, for 2 months, for 3 months. After that, they come and they ask these kind of questions that, sir, if my spellings are not correct usually, does that matter? If I'm grammatically weak, does that matter? If my handwriting is a little poor, is not visually very appealing, is that a disadvantage? Answer for all the questions is yes. If you believe that in your preparation or in your current level of understanding, there is some weak area that you have. If you have a doubt regarding any aspect of your preparation, trust me, it matters as early as possible and as well as you can start working on that area. Keeping this now in mind, some basics that we consider for the essay paper. Now let me also take a look at 3 basic elements in essay writing. Number 1, how you choose the topic. Number 2, how you interpret the topic correctly. And number 3, what the structure of any essay is. First and most importantly, for the essay paper, choose your topic. Choose the topic on which you're going to write carefully. Because once you choose the topic, once you start working on it, even in rough, changing the topic after that is not an option. Even if you want to change the topic after 5 minutes or 7 minutes, you may be able to change it, but it will really affect your concentration, affect your confidence, and will affect your performance. So first and most importantly, choose the topic carefully. On what basis do I choose the topic? In one simple sentence, choose the topic. From the 4 that are given to you, choose that topic where you believe you have adequate content. Now, that seems very commonsensical, that seems very easy, very obvious. Problem is that it is obvious inside a classroom, but not equally obvious for students who sit for the exam. Many students who sit for the exam, for some reason, try to take it as a challenge. The challenge exists inside your homes when you're practicing, but not in the actual exam. In the exam, what do some students do? They try to be different. They look at the 4 topics and they know that one of them, many students are going to write on. Therefore, just to be different, they try to choose a topic that is more difficult, that is more off the beaten path. Please do not do this for 2 reasons. Number 1, if you choose a common topic, even if there are hundreds of other people who are writing it, even if you choose a common topic, what is the advantage? The risk is very low. The returns may be average, slightly above average. What do you mean by average returns? If you choose 2 common topics out of 250 marks, you may end up with 120, 125 in an average year. But if you write well, that same average returns may go up to 130, 140 also. However, if you choose a difficult topic, the risk is high and the returns are unsure. If you write it well, there's always a possibility, I cannot deny it, that you may end up with 150, 155, 160. But if you make a mistake, there's a high probability that out of 250, your marks will drop drastically. About 4 years back, there was an essay topic given in the mains. If development is not engendered, it is endangered. There's a lot of controversy later about this essay topic. Many students chose it, many students wrote it. No matter what happens in the controversy, the problem is that you've lost your marks. You've compromised one attempt. So that please do not do with yourself. Don't try to be different. Choose a topic where you have adequate content, where you can write a good essay. This is important also for a second factor. Many students say that, sir, it is a common topic. Many people are going to write upon it. Every person is not going to do the same thing. Every person is not going to write the same content. If I am an evaluator and I'm checking 10 essay scripts, all 10 students write on the same topic, even then, the manner in which they write, the content that they choose, the way that they present that content is going to be different. In the same topic, if your essay stands out, your marks also will suddenly jump up. Number 3, therefore, choose a common topic and choose a topic where you have adequate content. Number 3, if you are not sure between two topics, which one you should write on, choose the topic that is broader, choose the topic that is more general. Why? Because in these kind of topics, it is easier to generate content. Similarly, it is easier to generate content on those topics where you can discuss both sides of the issue. If there are two different aspects, two different perspectives, these kind of essays are usually easy to generate content on and write effectively. To understand what this means, let me take one small example from this year's paper. This year, from 2020, in Section A and Section B, there were 4 topics each given. Couple of them let me look at. Section A contained 4 essay topics on reflective topics. One of them was life is a long journey between human being and being humane. From the same section, another topic was simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. Now, many students, what they will do is, they will choose this one. Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. It's not that you cannot write on it. If I want to talk about simplicity being the ultimate sophistication, where will I talk about the simplicity? I will talk about simplicity with regard to technology. I will talk about simplicity with regard to laws. That the simpler your laws, the simpler your procedures, the better the life for your citizens. I can talk about this with regard to medical research. I can talk about simplicity with regard to transportation, and so on and so forth. It's not that I cannot write on it. Problem is, after some time, it's a very general topic, it's a very simple topic, but after some time, I will start running out of content. For example, here itself, when I say transportation is very similar, seems like a repetition of what I said in point number 1 as technology. On the other hand, if I look at the first topic here, life is a long journey between human being and being humane. What is the distinction between the two? A human being is almost any person who is alive. Every single person, every one of us is a human being. But being humane requires that you possess some good values, or a slightly better word, that you possess the right virtues. What kind of virtues? For example, I would expect you to be tolerant. I would expect you to be compassionate. I would expect you to be generous. I would expect you to be forgiving, and so on and so forth. Here now it becomes very easy for me to explain to you that every single person is a human being, but very few of us or few of us are humane. I have 2 different sides to discuss. I can show you how being human is not enough, how having these virtues, these values is absolutely essential. Therefore, again, choose a topic that is simpler, choose a topic where you have 2 sides of the issue to discuss. It really makes it easy to generate content and to write that content effectively. Similarly, from this year's paper again, Section B, there was one topic, there can be no social justice without economic prosperity, but economic prosperity without social justice is meaningless. Now, that's a very long topic, and many students get intimidated, get scared if the topic is long. It doesn't really matter because there are 2 elements we're talking about. Number 1, social justice, and number 2, economic prosperity. Only 2 parts. And all that you have to show me is that you need economic prosperity for social justice, but economic prosperity without social justice is absolutely meaningless. Same thing we were looking at a few minutes back. When I said wealth is of no use without health, where was the wealth? That is economic prosperity. Where is the health? Let's say social justice. Again, I have two different aspects. I can explain to you what social justice is. I can show you what economic prosperity is. I can help you understand how social justice promotes economic prosperity and vice versa. I can show you how in India, growth is not inclusive. We have economic prosperity, but social justice is still poor. There are many dimensions to discuss. Another topic in the same section was technology as the silent factor in international relations. I can write on this also. It's not that we don't have content. If you say technology as the silent factor in international relations, we can look at this from the perspective of trade. We can look at this from the medical perspective. We can look at this from the perspective of defense. We can look at this from the perspective of climate change and so on and so forth. For example, if I say technology is a silent factor in international relations, I know that had America not developed nuclear fission or not mastered nuclear fission in 1938, they would have not been able to develop the atomic bombs. And had they not developed atomic bombs, there's a high probability that the Second World War would have not ended so early. It may have continued for a few more years. Their technology was the silent factor in international relations. And again, many different perspectives. But these perspectives, I am not sure whether I'll be able to discuss them in detail, in depth, and keep the discussion relevant to technology impacting international relations and only as an implicit, as a silent factor. Therefore, given a choice between the two, choose the simpler topic, which again is the correlation between social justice and economic prosperity. Number one, choose the topic carefully, because once you make this choice, you do not have an option. You will have to continue writing on it. Changing is not an option. Number two, once you've chosen the topic, interpret the topic correctly. How do you interpret the topic correctly? Two steps in this sequence. Number one, understand the topic and its demands clearly, correctly. Number two, create the skeletal structure of your essay. What is the skeletal structure? Identify what the key terms are, and number two, develop linkages between these terms. To understand that, how exactly do you interpret the topic? Whenever you are given a topic, first thing that you should do is that you rephrase this topic in the form of a question. When you rephrase the topic in the form of a question, when you answer this question, check if your answer is in agreement or disagreement with the question. If it is in agreement or disagreement, that means that we are talking about a topic that is based on your opinion. And if it is based on opinion, you should provide arguments for the topic or against the topic. But when you answer this question, if you don't agree or disagree with the question, if you just have a neutral answer to give, that means that the topic is informative. And if the topic is informative, if you're not seeking your opinion directly, now you write your essay based on different dimensions. What dimensions? Social, political, economic, historical, cultural, medical, humanitarian, and so on. Once again, if the topic is based on, or if the question demands an agreement or a disagreement, we are talking about opinion, now provide arguments. If you do not have an opinion to offer, this is informative. Now cover the topic from different dimensions. To understand this, let me add a couple of examples here also. These are all topics that have come in the previous years. For example, one essay topic was that the best for an individual is not necessarily the best for society. First thing that you do, rephrase it as a question. What is the question now? Is the best for an individual always the best for society? Sometimes what suits an individual is also beneficial for society. For example, if you want to get a higher education, if you are ambitious, if you want to work for the welfare of others, if you want a bigger platform, what benefits you will also benefit others. But there could be situations where what is beneficial for an individual goes against the welfare of society. For example, Being ambitious is good, but being over ambitious is not. Generating wealth is good, but becoming excessively greedy is not. So, with this question, I cannot say that the best for an individual is always the best for society. I will partly agree with this question. Another topic is that neglect of primary healthcare and education are reasons for India's backwardness. How do I rephrase this as a question? Does the neglect of primary healthcare and education cause backwardness? Without doubt, the answer is yes. So, with this topic, I definitely agree. Third, the fulfillment of the new woman in India is a myth. Now, we know that we are moving towards the empowerment of women, we are giving them greater opportunities, they are excelling in different fields of life. So, this is a topic. If I ask you, is the fulfillment of of a new woman in India a myth? Answer is definitely no. It is not a myth, it is a reality. It may take time, we may not have reached where we wanted to, but we are moving in the right direction. So, with this topic, I would definitely disagree. To interpret the topic, number one, rephrase it as a question. Number two, check whether you agree or you disagree with it. If you agree or disagree, that means that this topic is based on opinion. And if it is based on opinion, now in your essay, what do we expect? In your essay, we expect arguments. Arguments in favor of the topic or arguments against the topic. For example, the first topic that we just looked at, best for an individual, is not necessarily the best for society. This is a topic with which I partially agree. So here, what is the focus of my essay? Number one, to show how what is best for an individual benefits society. But another part of my essay should also explain how the best for an individual sometimes may even harm society. I am providing a balance because I partially agree. Number two, when we said that neglect of health and primary education are reasons for India's backwardness, we agreed. So when you agree, now what will you do? Show how the neglect of health and education promote backwardness. Similarly, if you want, you can also show how focusing on health and education can promote development. How does health and education promote development? It is what should I say? It is a statistic for you. If a woman in India, let me not even say woman, let me say mother. If a mother in India is uneducated, the chance that her child will suffer stunting is 51%. If a woman has completed her primary, or if a mother has completed her primary education, chance of stunting reduces to 33%. If a mother has completed her secondary education, chance of stunting reduces to 21%. And of course, when the chance of stunting or the probability reduces, it promotes greater development. For two reasons. Number one, more people can add to good quality human capital. And number two, the burden of providing for their needs, for their healthcare, for their welfare will also significantly reduce. Since I agree with the topic, now I'll show you how neglect of healthcare and education causes backwardness and how focusing on them promotes economic growth or promotes prosperity. Number three, fulfillment of new India, a new woman in India is a myth. We disagree with this topic. So now what is the focus of my essay? To show how the state and society are evolving to accept and promote the new woman. Keywords over here, evolving. We cannot say that the new woman or the concept of a new woman has been realized in India so far. But if we compare ourselves with what we were just a few years back in the past, the concept of a new woman is becoming a stronger and a more visible reality. If you agree or disagree, the topic is seeking your opinion. If it is seeking your opinion, you are expected to provide an argument either for or against the topic. Number two, again, to interpret the topic, there could be some essay topics where we are not seeking your opinion. These are topics that are largely informative in nature. How do you recognize that? Again, by rephrasing them as a question. For example, one essay topic given a couple of years back was alternative technologies for a climate change resilient India. Now here I don't have the option of agreeing or disagreeing. I will have to discuss these alternative technologies. When I rephrase this as a question, what does the question become? What are the technologies for a climate change resilient India? And since I can't give an opinion, I have to give information. So now in my essay, I will cover different dimensions. Which technologies will we talk about? Technologies that are related to agriculture, technologies that are related to industry, technologies that are related to infrastructure, technologies that are related to transportation, and so on. In an informative essay, discuss the different or consider different dimensions that you will use. Similarly, another essay topic, and this one I need you to understand a little more carefully. This one says a good life is one that is inspired by love and guided by knowledge. How do I rephrase the question? How is a good life inspired by love and guided by knowledge? And how is it inspired by love and guided by knowledge? It can be inspired by love on an interpersonal level, on a societal level, on a scientific level, and so on. And those again are different dimensions. More important point that I need you to understand over here, some students will have this doubt. They will say that can this question not be rephrased in this form? Is a good life inspired by love and guided by knowledge? Now, I can certainly put this question also, but on a universal level, every single person will tell you that the answer for this question will be yes. This is not debatable. Every single person will tell you that a good life is inspired by love, is guided by knowledge. So that is not what my essay is going to focus on. That is a given conclusion. My essay is supposed to consider how does love, how does knowledge guide and inspire a good life. Which is why, again, what will I do? I will look at different dimensions. Number one, choose the topic carefully because changing it is not an option. Number two, interpret the topic correctly. How? By rephrasing it as a question, checking whether you agree or disagree with it. If you agree or disagree, give your opinion. If you do not agree or disagree, it means it is informative. Now consider different dimensions. Third factor that you look at is to create the skeletal structure of your essay. How do you create the skeletal structure? To create the skeletal structure, read the entire topic carefully. I'm literally talking to you like you're going to school right now, but this is important. So read the entire topic carefully. Identify the key terms that are given in the topic. When you identify these key terms, understand what are the expected linkages, expected connections between the terms. Students here usually ask, how do I know what is expected? You learn what is expected by practicing more. So understand the expected linkages, and third, create a checklist. Create a set of points on the areas that your essay must cover. How you create the checklist? Again, I'll explain to you in a couple of minutes. Second, keep in mind that a bad essay only gives information on the terms. It just mentions information on the terms. Linkages between these terms, connections between the terms are either weak. In most cases, there is no link that is developed at all. If you're talking about social justice and economic prosperity, some students will talk about social justice. They will talk about how there is economic prosperity. They will not correlate the two. Even if they correlate, they'll correlate how economic prosperity is important for social justice, but not the other way around. A good essay, on the other hand, what does that do? A good essay will explain the terms to you, will explain the connections between the terms, and most importantly, will discuss those connections with appropriate evidence, with appropriate facts. To understand how you do that, how you create this skeletal structure, again, let me add a small example. Couple of years back, there was this topic that was given over here in the UPSC. A people that values its privileges over its principles soon loses both. First thing that you do, and now let me recap what we were discussing. First thing that you do is interpret the topic correctly. How do you interpret it? Rephrase it as a question. Will a people that values its privileges over its principles lose both? Without hesitation, the answer is yes. So this is a topic with which I agree. Now, if I agree, my essay will contain arguments to prove that you must focus on your principles. Ideally, maintain a balance between principles and privileges. If you must make a choice, choose your principles, not your privileges. Because if you choose your privileges, very soon you will lose both. Now, first, I understand, interpret the topic correctly. Number two, I create the skeletal structure. What is the skeletal structure? You can call it the skeletal structure. You can call it the outline of your essay. You can call it pre-planning before you start writing. You can give it any term that you want. Here, what am I doing? Here, for my understanding, not necessarily the examiner, this is my understanding. This is a checklist that I create of areas of dimensions that my essay must cover. For example, first thing that I must do in this essay is explain what privileges are, what principles are. Number two, I must explain why a balance is needed between the two, or why principles should never be compromised. And third, my opinion nobody cares about unless I can give it some evidence. So number three, I must explain how choosing privileges over the principles has proven harmful for nations in the past. This is the broad structure, the broad outline, the broad brainstorming that I do for my essay. That first I will explain what these two terms are. I'll explain why you should not compromise your principles. And third, I will show you when you compromise your principles, what is the impact on a nation, how it is harmful, detrimental for you. Keeping this in mind, now this is broadly the brainstorming that you're doing. Keeping this in mind, let me also understand the structure of the essay. And then I'll go back to the topic and we'll see how you write that structure down also. Every essay, or every answer also for that matter, has three broad parts. You have the introduction, you have the body, you have the conclusion. Each of these has a different purpose. What is the purpose of the introduction? Purpose of the introduction is to convey the correct understanding of the topic. Number two is to present an outline of what your essay is going to be about. And number three is to generate some interest, generate some curiosity in your essay. The evaluator who's checking your essays must be reading dozens of essays in a day. At that time, if your introduction, where do I start from? I read the introduction first. If your introduction has something different, something novel, something surprising, something that generates interest, I will read your essay a little more carefully and give you the marks that you honestly deserve. That's the purpose of your introduction. What you write there, I'll explain a little later. Second is the body of your paragraph, the body paragraphs of your essay. In the body, what do? You provide different dimensions, different perspectives on the topic. And when you're providing these perspectives, essentially what you're doing, you are creating arguments to support your point of view. Third is the conclusion. In the conclusion, what do? I have noticed that students spend a lot of time preparing and planning the introduction. Very few students put adequate time, equal attention in preparing the conclusion. Remember that this can be fatal. On a simple psychological level, nobody gives you marks after reading your introduction. We give you marks after reading your conclusion. If you do not write a good conclusion, or if you don't write a conclusion at all, what are you conveying to me? Two things. Number one, that I don't have more content, or number two, that I don't know how to manage my time. And in both cases, you're leaving me with a very poor impression. Therefore, always write the conclusion. What is your task, or what is your purpose here? To reinforce your views on the topic one last time, and hopefully to create a positive, lasting impression on the reader. Body paragraphs we will discuss some other time in some other session. Today, let me focus on what you write in the introduction, on what you write in the conclusion. Now, before I get into these two, I have seen a lot of students asking questions which display the fact that to a large extent they are not sure what to do. They use very technical kind of terms, that in the introduction, should I write a thesis statement? Should I try to encapsulate whatever I want? And I know this is not their language. Please keep the exercise simple and easy to implement. What do you write in the introduction? Very simply, in the introduction should be such that it catches the reader's attention, generates interest, generates curiosity. How do I do that? You can present a small anecdote, you can present a suitable quotation, you can use an element of surprise, shock, sorrow, joy, and so on. Number two, your introduction should tell the examiner what to expect from your essay. Third, and most importantly, put all the technical jargon aside. Trust me on this. Forget about a thesis statement, forget about encapsulating your ideas, forget about using quotations, forget about using contemporary evidence. Put all of that on the side. A very simple but a very effective tool, I'm telling you. Use the topic of your essay as the last line of the introduction. It creates a very powerful impact, and it is a very simple way in which to write. Once again, use the topic as the last line of the introduction. It will leave the examiner with a very powerful impact. To understand how exactly you do that, let me return to the same essay topic. A people that values its privileges over its principles soon loses both. Now, to write this down, let's say I have 4 different examples. From India, I have our fundamental rights and I have our fundamental duties. Number 2, I can talk about the British Empire, the contributions that it made to different parts of the world, but also the excesses that it committed. Number 3, I can talk about Nazi Germany, the grand vision that they had as compared to the horrors of the Holocaust. Or number 4, I can talk about the US and the exploitative way in which it very often functions. If I want to write an introduction for this topic, I can use any one of these examples. You can call them data, you can call them anecdotes, for example. But one thing I will do is, when I finish my paragraph, I will try to use the topic as the last line of the introduction. For example, let's say we start with the British Empire, and very simply we say, the British Empire at its peak, at its zenith, ruled a quarter of the world's population and a quarter of the world's area. Why were they, and how were they able to do it? They were able to do it because their foundations of the empire were set on a strong set of principles. It was established on strong principles. What kind of principles? Rule of law, sense of duty, willingness to sacrifice, fortitude, patience, tolerance, and so on. It was because of these principles that the British Empire was able to give its subjects administrative organization and infrastructural development. So far, I'm talking about the advantage of having principles. But I also have to explain when you started losing these principles, when you started focusing on your privileges. So here we write, yet at the turn of the 20th century, the British Empire found itself increasingly focusing on only its privileges. How did they focus on their privileges? Without going deep into any example, there are n number of examples that I will list. Why am I listing, not explaining them? Because the more I list, the greater the impact it has on the reader. For example, we'll start first, since we're Indians, we start with the partition of India and the consequent murders of millions. What are you doing? Focusing on your privilege, packing your bags and leaving India behind in a complete chaos. Number 2, the massacre at Jallianwala Bagh. Number 3, diverting food to Britain while millions died in India during the Bengal famine, and so on. These were just a few of the excesses that the empire found itself guilty of. And very soon, the empire on which the sun never set saw its imminent collapse within a matter of decades. Because a nation that values its privileges over its principles soon loses both. In this introduction, how long is this? This is about 150 words. What have you done? You have very clearly established your point of view on the topic by telling the examiner that I agree with this topic. This is what happens to nations. This is what happens if you focus on your principles. This is what can happen if you focus only on your privileges. Which is why, again, I'm telling you, don't get into technicalities, don't get into jargon. Use a simple example, simple anecdote, some basic data statistics. Conclude your introduction by using the topic as the last sentence. Can we do this repeatedly? Answer is yes. Let me take another example. British Empire we were talking about. Now for a moment, for the same introduction, let me talk about India. And here very simply we start by saying that the Constitution of India gives every citizen fundamental rights, but also expects us to abide by some fundamental duties. The rights are in the nature of privileges that we get. The duties are in the nature of the principles that entitle us to those rights. There's only one difference between the two. The rights are justiciable, the duties are not. And there comes the problem. What is the problem? That most people have a strong sense of entitlement. We are very quick, we are very vocal in demanding our rights, but we are not equally conscious of the very few duties that the Constitution expects of us. As a result, when we focus only on our privileges, only on our rights, what happens? Intolerance and violence are increasing in the country. Pendency of litigations is increasing. Scientific temper is eroding. And as these problems increase, if I look at, for example, only pendency of cases in the Indian judiciary, what does that signify? That means that now getting even our basic rights is becoming tougher, is becoming a struggle. Why? Because judicial delays are inordinate. And why is getting our rights becoming a struggle? Because a people that values its privileges over its principles soon loses both. Again, you're conveying your perspective on the topic and you're concluding with the topic as your last sentence, creating a very powerful impact upon the reader. That is how very simply you write your introduction. Similarly, what do you write in the conclusion? The conclusion is almost a mirror image of the introduction. The basics remain more or less the same. For example, in the conclusion, what do you write? Example I'll come to in a minute. In the conclusion, you provide a final reinforcement of the topic. Tools to use are the same: good quotation, suitable anecdote, good example. And again, if possible, and it is usually very comfortably possible, if possible, use the topic as the last line of the conclusion. It will leave a lasting impact on the reader. Two examples we looked at. We looked at fundamental rights and duties. We looked at the British Empire. To conclude the same essay, let me also take the example of the Nazis. Now, in the conclusion, what will I write? Should a nation, even in the name of national interest, ever sacrifice its principles? And here itself, I'll give the answer. History repeatedly reminds us that the answer is no. The German state and society under the Nazis took every action with the confident belief, with the absolute confident assurance that they were building a new world order. The Nazis believed that they were creating the Third Reich, which would last, in Hitler's words, 1,000 years. Blinded by the myth of Aryan supremacy, they gradually started sacrificing even the basic principles of humanity. And in front of our very eyes, they committed the unheard of, untold horrors of the Holocaust. Because they started committing these horrors, now I don't need to explain the rest over here, but history knows that when they started committing these cruelties on the Jewish population, more and more opinion turned against the Nazis, leading to the Second World War, and as a result, the Third Reich, which was supposed to last 1,000 years, collapsed within a couple of decades. Why did it collapse? Because a people that values its privileges over its principles soon loses both. All that we are doing is giving one simple example, concluding the paragraph with the topic as the last sentence. And again, a very simple but a very powerful impact it has on the reader. One more way or one more example let me add over here to reinforce that this is easy and simple to do. One example that we've left off so far is the US. Again, in the conclusion, what do we write? Should a nation, even in the name of national interest, ever sacrifice its principles? The answer is a firm no. Now, what are America's privileges? Being the only superpower in the world, the Americans have significant technological, military, and economic might over the rest of the world. Almost any action by the Americans will have a ripple effect on the entire world. Yet, in recent times, the Americans have been increasingly accused of only maximizing their interests. When was this last visible? This was last visible during the COVID pandemic itself. In the initial stages of the pandemic, before the vaccines were developed, the Americans were coercing other countries, including India, if you remember, including India for hydroxychloroquine, to supply vital medicines to them. Later, once the vaccine had been developed, the Americans were accused of hoarding vaccines while other countries were facing a severe shortage of the vaccine. In both cases, what are you doing? You're focusing on your privileges. You are not focusing equally well, equally proportionately on your principles. As a result of this, there has been growing. As a result of this, there has been growing condemnation and distrust of the Americans, not only with regard to the pandemic, but even with regard to other areas. For example, the Afghan crisis. For example, the fuel crisis that we are currently facing. Or for example, even the threat of climate change. Why is this distrust? Why is this condemnation, criticism, suspicion increasing? Because a people that values its privileges over its principles soon loses both. Writing the introduction, writing the conclusion is very simple, very easy. If number one, you have a little bit of content or relevant content, and number two, if you know the simple and very basic structure that we're following here. This is one brief look at some basic elements that are required for the essay paper, how you choose the topic, how you interpret the topic, and how you write at least the introduction and the conclusion. More elements we'll discuss in some other session. Thank you very much.